Recently, I was invited to a surprise birthday party. It was a surprise birthday party for a dog. That's right, I have friends that are mentally ill. I went. It was in my apartment building, and I needed the material. And to be fair, the dog was surprised. Didn't suspect a thing. Dog didn't know it was his birthday. The dog didn't know it had a birthday. The dog wasn't sure why people were in the apartment. It was the dog's third birthday, which in dog years doesn't matter. Someone made that up and we just went along with it. Oh, 1 year equals 7 for doggies? Okay. When I see a dog, I'll do math. That's not fulfilling some dog need. You know, there's not a dog sitting in a bar right now going, I'm not 3, I'm 21. I can legally drink. That's not how dogs keep track of time. If you have a dog, you know they don't keep track of time. You've left your home, forgotten something, walked back in, only to be greeted by your dog like you've just returned from war. They're back! It's a miracle! They're back after I don't know how long, because I'm a dog! These poor dogs. We just attach these points of view on these poor dogs. Like dog is man's best friend. How desperate are humans? We're best friends, right? Dog's like, well, aren't we different species? But we're best friends forever. You know, you locked me in the house all day with nothing but a bowl of water. You'd think you let your best friend sit on the couch. We're best friends. Now put on this fireman's outfit. We're gonna do a photo shoot for Instagram. You know, sometimes when you sleep, I think about eating your face. But I get it. I love dogs, too. I love animals. We all have the friend that announces they love animals in a way that implies the rest of us are drowning kittens. Yeah, but I love animals. Well, that's a pretty exclusive group of just you and anyone who's not a serial killer. Yeah, but I just get along with animals better. Or humans don't like you. I did have an opportunity to go on a safari, which was unbelievable. It was breathtaking how bad the Wi-Fi was. I went on a safari, which is just a fancy word for animal stalking. Because that's what you do on a safari. You follow animals and watch them. You're like... Beautiful. It's a good thing these animals can't report us to the police. Yeah, officer, that fat guy in the untucked shirt followed me for an hour this morning. I woke up and he was taking pictures of me and my family. We were naked. Yeah, the guy who looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman. On the safari, I saw one animal kill another animal, and intellectually I was like, I don't want to see that. But emotionally, in the moment, I was like, get him. Get your leg! My kids were totally savage about it. They're like, come, I'm a blood. My kids were with me. My kids were poorly behaved on a safari. They're 6 and 7, and animals would walk by like, savages. My two youngest are 6 and 7-year-old boys, and they're total savages. They're constantly picking on me, they're jumping on me, and they pick on me. How they pick on me recently is they make fun of my, what they call my huge boy part. Now, before you think I'm walking around the house naked, or in fact have a huge boy part, you should know that, like, when you have young sons, you have to constantly encourage them to use the bathroom. And if you're a dad, sometimes you pee with them, so that's why they've seen my boy part. But that doesn't explain why sometimes at dinner they'll just point at me and giggle and go, Dad and his huge boy part. And I never know what to say. I'm like, guilty. Got me again. Did you hear that, honey? Do you love animals? Well, I do too. If you don't hit subscribe, all the animals will die. So it's up to you. Do it.